Hey there viewer, welcome to the channel. My name is Becky and this is Bria Makes Art, and you clicked on this video to see me do a painting using the Arteza Premium Gouache. This is considered a student grade gouache, and I did just look up the difference between student grade and artist's grade or professional grade art materials, and generally speaking, the artist grade materials have more pigment load, so you're going to get more vibrant colors, that sort of thing, and it's also more expensive. So the student grade, you might not get quite as vibrant of colors, but it is going to be a lot easier on your pocketbook. So like I said, today we're going to be using these. I'm going to be doing a mushroom painting and maybe talking a little bit about the painting and a little bit about how I feel about the paints. This is part of a series of videos I'm making where I am doing mushroom paintings using a bunch of different gouaches. I started off with the Mayahimi gouache. This is the jelly gouaches, and I made this one, and then I moved on to student grade gouache, the Royal and Langnickel student grade gouache, and made this painting, and I will link all of the videos for these below. And then the last one I did was the Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache. This is the only artist grade gouache that I've used. And it's the only artist grade gouache that I own, other than maybe a couple of small random tubes that I have received in different art boxes. So I do have a full set of the Arteza Premium Gouaches that I purchased a while ago. Alrighty, let's get right to it. First thing I need to do is grab my gouache. I've got this little container I got from IKEA, and I've got all of my Arteza Premium Gouaches in there, so I'm just going to grab those out and then we can get started. I do want to apologize right off the bat about the camera angle. I have a limited number of places where I can put my camera so you can actually see what I'm painting. I have a new larger camera that I'm using rather than my phone, so I can't do the top-down view anymore because I don't have anything that will allow me to do that. And when I set this up, I didn't realize that it was just going to focus on my arm a whole lot. Next time, I promise I'm going to sit on the other side of the table so that you can actually see what I'm painting and you're not just seeing my hand a whole bunch. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I've wet the background already, and I'm using a really thinned out version of the paint to paint in some blurry trees in the background. I wanted those to be out of focus so that the mushroom and the foreground was what was in focus, and that will hopefully give us the contrast that we need in order to make it easily differentiable. One problem that you can see that I had was that the paint ran down the paper because I had it watered down quite a bit, and also because I have it up at an angle. Like I said, I couldn't lay it down on the desk and work on it because I wouldn't be able to record it at that angle. Also, having it up at an angle like this helps me with neck issues. We just did a quick jump forward, and you can see that I've put some green color in the background just to kind of symbolize leaves. I didn't paint individual leaves, I just kind of put some green blobs, and then I'm going to put some really light blue on there to do some sky. This entire background I'm doing in really watered down light layers because from experience and from what I have heard online, with gouache you want to do thicker layers on top of thinner layers. If you try and do a thick layer on top of a thick layer, you're likely to reactivate the gouache underneath. Whereas if you do a thicker layer on top of a thinner layer, you're much less likely to reactivate that gouache and end up with muddy colors. At this point, I have basically all of my base colors in, and now I'm going to go and start adding more detail and add some thicker layers to add in the nice bold colors that I want, so that the foreground will have all of the details and the background will just kind of fade into the background. As promised, I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about the gouache here. Like I said earlier, this is the Arteza Premium Gouache, and it is a student grade gouache. I really enjoyed using this gouache. It wasn't too thick, it wasn't too thin. When I thinned it out, I still had a good amount of color in there, and when I put it on more thickly, it laid over top. I was able to put light colors over dark without any issues. Overall, very, very happy with the quality of this gouache. This is a tube gouache, which means that you have to squirt it out on your palette and use it from there. I did leave some of it out overnight and came back the next day and it had dried out, but that's expected from gouache. It was easy to reactivate by just adding some water, and I didn't have any issues with working with it after having reactivated it with water. The gouache set that I have actually came with a wooden case, some gouache paper, a bunch of brushes, a plastic palette, as well as a color wheel, and 12 tubes of paint. That retails for about $45 on Amazon. I got it a little bit cheaper because I got it at a discount store, so it was more like an overstock item. You can get about 20 tubes of paint for about 20 bucks on Amazon, so price-wise, it's really reasonable. One thing that I will note is with tube gouache, I tend to waste more paint because I'll put it on the palette and I'll do my painting, and then when I'm done, I will end up just rinsing that palette off, and any paint that was left on the palette goes to waste. Whereas with something like a jelly gouache, like the Mahimi gouache, I don't pull very much out onto a palette, and so I don't waste nearly as much with the Mahimi gouache, but I do feel like this Arteza gouache was a higher quality than the jelly gouache. All in all, I definitely will be reaching back out for this gouache again in the future. I think it made a really nice painting and it was really enjoyable to work with. Like I said, I was able to put light colors over top of dark colors without any issues. I was able to do really light washes with it like it was a watercolor. So overall, definitely give it 2 thumbs up. I'm just putting on the final touches to this painting, and then in a minute we will do the tape peel. I will apologize for the awkward angles of the tape peel. I was trying to do something artsy and it didn't really turn out as well as I wanted. So one thing I will note is I do peel the tape off, and up in that upper right hand corner I do get a little bit of tearing of the paper. I don't think this has anything to do with the gouache itself, and this is the same paper that I've used for the other mushroom paintings, and those came off nice, and it's the same kind of washi tape that I've used for the other paintings as well. It's just something that happens sometimes. I do apologize for the shaky camera work. I am holding this camera around my neck as I try to peel the tape one-handed, and that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Now I'll leave you with a little bit of ASMR tape peeling. And here we are with the final shots of the painting. I'm really happy with how that background turned out and how the trees are really fuzzy and how the mushroom is popping out in the front with a lot more detail. And overall, I really like the ground as well with all of the moss and stuff on there. I think putting the darker brown in there really made all of that pop really nicely. Well, that is another painting in the bag. That is the last of the mushroom paintings that I'm going to be doing for a while. I wanted to do something that was similar between all of the different gouaches so that it would be easier to compare. And I wanted to do a full painting with each one so that I got a really good experience with each of the gouaches. As I showed you a minute ago, this is the final piece. I am really happy with how it turned out. As you can see, there was a fair amount of warping to the paper. This is, I think, more due to the amount of water that I used on this piece rather than the gouache. I did do a wet on wet technique on the background here with a lot of water and then a lot of watered down gouache, and paper is going to warp when you do that, especially when it's not 100% cotton, and this is not. This is a Canson watercolor. For comparison, this is the warping that we had on the Winsor & Newton gouache piece. A little bit of warping, but not as much as this one. I'm going to go ahead and try the iron trick If you don't know what I'm talking about, do a quick Google search and you'll see how to do it. Basically, just take a hot iron and try and iron it out. Hopefully that'll work and I'll get a nice flat piece. Overall, like I said earlier, I enjoyed using the Arteza gouache. I think it was really nice to use. I am going to be doing one more gouache comparison video. In this video, I'm not going to be doing a painting. I'm just going to be doing a bunch of different techniques with the different gouaches to be able to kind of compare and contrast each one so that you can really see how each one performs with different techniques. So I think that's probably going to be my next video. I'm hoping to get that recorded this weekend because I'm going out of town next week for a work conference. So I want to get everything recorded before I leave so that I can take footage with me and get that ready and uploaded while I'm out of town. Anyway, I really had a lot of fun doing this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing and feel free to leave comments below. I love to hear feedback from you guys about what you liked, what you didn't like, what kinds of things you want to see. I know it helps out the channel, but it's also really nice for me to see that people are watching and enjoying the content. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I will see you guys next week and have a good week. Bye.